They lied to me my whole life. Until I found out the dark truth they never wanted me to know. The night I stopped being someone's daughter started like any other tired Tuesday after rain. I came home to the sound of the kettle hissing and the window over the sink fogged from the steam. Our kitchen always smells like butter and garlic when my mom cooks. She'll tell you it's because real food needs fat. And I used to love that smell because it meant safety. That night it made me nauseous. My dad had texted that he'd be late. Quarterly stuff. Don't wait up, which is his way of asking not to be asked. I kicked off my wet sneakers, hung my jacket on the chair with the wobbly leg, and was reaching for a glass when I heard it. My mom's voice. Too quiet for the room and too tight for casual. She was in the laundry room with the door almost closed. I only caught fragments because the dryer thumped at the worst moments. But the fragments were enough to pry something open in me I didn't know could open. Can't keep this up. If they find out. No, I said if. It will destroy everything we built. The word destroy hit me like a plate smashing on tile. My mom is a practical woman. She says that's inconvenient when the power goes out and we'll manage when the car needs tires. She doesn't use apocalypse words like destroy. I stood there, one hand on the cabinet handle, frozen in the posture of an ordinary person in an ordinary evening. She must have heard the floorboard near the laundry room complain. Our house always tells on you, because her tone shifted mid-sentence. I'll call you back, she said, and the click of the phone was soft but final. When she came out a moment later, she had her everything's fine smile on, the one that never reaches her eyes. Hey, baby, she said, bumping the kettle off the heat. You want tea? I nodded because my mouth was dry. She poured chamomile like this was any other night, slid the mug across the counter, and asked about work. I answered in low-effort syllables, rearranging the salt and pepper like they were chess pieces that mattered. When she turned to pull a casserole from the oven, I watched her shoulders. My mother holds stress in her neck. You can see it from the back like someone tightened a string between her shoulder blades. The string was a cable tonight that we ate. I barely tasted anything. She made small talk about the neighbor's new fence and an email from my aunt. I watched her hands, how they cut the roast into tidy slices like control could be plated. I asked where Dad would be home from quarterly stuff, and she said late, too quickly. The cable twanged again. Here is the part where I tell you this wasn't the first loose thread I've seen. I just never pulled before. Growing up, I never looked like anyone at home. My dad has dark eyes and hair, so black it shines blue in the sun. My mom's hair is jet, her skin olive, her nose elegant. I'm pale with light brown hair and eyes that turn amber when I stand by a window. People love to tell families who they think the kid looks like. With us, they'd frown and say, she's a nice blend, and then change the subject. There were other tiny things that didn't matter until suddenly they did. In 10th grade biology, we did a blood typing lab. My card came out B+, which technically didn't make sense if both parents were O. My mom swore they were. She laughed it off. Lab kits are cheap, sweetheart. And the teacher shrugged. And I went home and picked at my cuticle. Until it bled because something fell off, and I had no vocabulary for off. Theirs. The way my mom dodged DNA kits at Christmas when the rest of the family was spitting into tubes for fun ancestry pie charts. She called it data harvesting and a scam, which is perfectly reasonable, except the way she said it made the air around her go brittle. My dad added a joke about not needing a corporation to tell us we're 100% tired, and everyone laughed. And I laughed too because that's what you do when you are outnumbered by certainty. There's the hospital bracelet box. My mother keeps souvenirs like a curator. First curly lock from my first haircut. The shoes with daisies I allegedly refused to take off at 3. But the bracelet labeled with my birth date? She could never find it when I asked. We moved a lot back then, she'd say. Which is true, but it always landed like a lie that borrowed the shape of truth. There's the birth certificate with a delayed filing stamp that I once Googled and then stopped Googling because I didn't want to be a conspiracy person. My mother said the county clerk made an error. We lived in an old county with inconsistent records. Bureaucracy is sloppy. Again, reasonable. Again, brittle. When she said destroy, it wasn't an isolated explosion. It was a tremor that shook a bridge I'd been walking across for 21 years. A bridge I had always believed was stone and now sounded hollow if you tapped it with your heel. After dinner, she loaded the dishwasher. I pretended to scroll. She told me to sleep early. I said sure. We did our ordinary goodnights. Then I lay in the dark and stared at the ceiling fan rotate like a slow clock. Somewhere around 11, the house settled with the sighs old houses make. And my phone lit up with a text from Dad. Home late. Love you. Kiddo. I stared at the words until they blurred and wondered which part of me he loved. Exactly. The part they named? The part they curated? I must have slept, because when I woke it was 3:11 a.m., the exact time when thoughts feel most like facts. I padded to the kitchen for water and stood by the sink in the blue light of an appliance that always blinks 12 o'clock. The laundry room door was cracked again. Inside, a faint smell of dryer sheets and something sweet I couldn't place. Like lilacs someone had tried to press between pages, but the petals still remembered how to smell. On the shelf above the washer. A box I'd never noticed before. Metal, scuffed, the size of a thick book. You know how certain objects seem to hum without making a sound? This one did. I didn't open it. Not then. I put the water glass in the sink and went back to bed and lay there with my eyes open until the first thin light peeled up the edge of the blinds. I told myself sensible things. People fight about money. People have private medical issues. Parents protect kids from adult storms. Sensible things are blankets in July. Comforting until you realize you're sweating under them, and the heat is the truth you're refusing to acknowledge. By morning, an idea had set like concrete. I'm going to look. Not because I wanted drama. Because pretending not to hear the word destroy would be a kind of self-betrayal I wasn't willing to perform anymore. That I waited until my mom left for the grocery store and the house exhaled. I made coffee because rituals steady hands. I tied my hair back because hair in your eyes makes you hesitate. I pulled the laundry room door open the rest of the way and climbed the little step stool that wobbles. I reached for the metal box with both hands like it might be heavier than it looked on the lid. A faint, almost invisible scratch that looked like it once held a label. The latch stuck for a second, then gave with a sigh. Inside, under a layer of tissue paper, were envelopes tied with a thin length of twine. Old paper has a smell, vanilla and dust, and something fragile you can't name. Each envelope was addressed in a careful, unfamiliar hand. Dates marched across the top right corners in a timeline that ran from before I was born to sometime when I was in elementary school. There were also photocopies, forms with stamps, a hospital name I recognized, a phrase I didn't expect to see in black ink, live birth, administrative correction. And there, between the letters and the forms, a Polaroid, a woman I did not know, exhausted and luminous in the way new mothers look in bad hospital lighting, cradling a blanket-wrapped baby. On the back, in blue pen, a name that wasn't mine. I sat down on the laundry room floor with the box open in my lap and the dryer door pressing into my shoulder and the sound of my own breathing too loud in my ears. I didn't cry. Not then. There's a kind of shock that removes tears from your body like the tide leaving a beach. It would be clean to say that in that moment I knew everything. I didn't. All I knew was this. The bridge under my feet wasn't stone. It was papier-mâché, painted to look sturdy. And someone had left it in the rain. I retied the twine with hands that trembled, put the envelopes back exactly as they'd been, lowered the lid, and set the box where it belonged. I wiped the slight crescent my palm left in the dust. Then I stood, made my face look like a person's face, and went to meet my mother at the door with grocery bags like nothing at all had shifted, but everything had. That night, I decided I would read every word in that box. Not to punish, to know, to finally, for once, stand on a floor that didn't pretend to be something else. The second time I opened the box, I did it with purpose. No more pretending I just stumbled onto something. I waited until the house was empty, Mom on errands, Dad at the office, though my faith in that phrase had started to rot. I made sure the blinds were drawn. Even turned off my phone so the buzz of a notification wouldn't startle me and make me shove everything back before I'd really looked. I set the metal box on the dining table, the place where birthdays were celebrated and tax forms were filled out. Like it belonged there, like it had always belonged there. The twine around the envelopes was rough, frayed in spots. Whoever tied it had tied it to last. My fingers shook, not because I was afraid of paper, but because I was afraid of what paper could prove. The first envelope I opened was dated August 1999, 2 months before my official birth certificate date. Inside was a folded letter on stationery, so thin it almost crumbled in my hands. The handwriting wasn't my mom's. It was looping, emotional, The kind of handwriting that feels more like a heartbeat than a script. She deserves better than what I can give her. Please tell her, one day, when she's ready, that I loved her enough to let go. I read the sentence so many times the words blurred, as if the letters might rearrange themselves into something less devastating if I stared long enough. She let go. My throat closed. I had to set the paper down because my palms were damp and I didn't trust myself not to smudge the ink. The second letter was shorter, more official. A hospital memo, stamped and signed, referencing a transfer of custody under confidential agreement. My name wasn't there. Another name was typed, and next to it, in pen, someone had written my current name in parentheses, like an afterthought, like a correction on a school paper. Hook number 1. Was I ever legally theirs? Or just borrowed under paperwork dressed up as legitimacy? There were more letters, each one layering confusion over confusion. One begged for updates. Does she sleep through the night yet? Does she laugh? Another thanked my parents for taking on what we couldn't. None of them were addressed to me. I was always the baby. The little one. Your gift. It's strange to read your own existence described like a fragile package exchanged between strangers. The bottom of the stack was the birth certificate I'd seen before. Only this copy had an extra stamp, one I didn't recognize. Administrative correction, parentage. The word parentage leapt off the page like a confession whispered too loudly. My hands trembled harder now, not from the paper, but from what it implied. Parentage is not a word you see unless something doesn't line up. Hook number 2. What exactly was corrected, and what had been erased? I pressed the stack of papers back together, tied the twine shakily, but left the Polaroid out for a moment longer. The woman in the photo had soft features and tired eyes, the kind of tired that isn't just physical but cellular. She wasn't anyone I knew, and yet, the curve of her chin, it was mine. The tilt of her amber eyes, it was mine. I whispered, "Who are you?" into the empty kitchen. My own voice startled me. That's when the front door clicked. My heart jammed against my ribs. I shoved the Polaroid back, slammed the lid, slid the box into the laundry room, and threw myself onto the couch, TV remote in hand, as if I'd been watching sitcom reruns this whole time. My mom's footsteps moved through the hallway, bags rustling, keys hitting the dish like always. She peeked in. "Everything good?" she asked, casual. Too casual. The kind of casual that's rehearsed. "Yeah." I croaked, my throat dry. "Just chilling." She nodded, disappeared into the kitchen. The scent of groceries, bananas, plastic packaging, deli meat, drifted into the air. Ordinary. Too ordinary. Meanwhile, my pulse was still pounding like I'd run a mile barefoot over broken glass. That I realized something right then. I couldn't unknow this. Even if I burned the letters, even if I shredded the Polaroid, the knowledge was in me now, tattooed under the skin. And once you start asking questions like, who am I, really? They don't stop multiplying. Hook number 3. What if the person you call mom has been rehearsing a role your entire life, and tonight is the night you finally catch her script slipping? That night, sleep was impossible. I lay in my bed staring at the ceiling, tracing invisible cracks in the plaster that weren't there, inventing patterns to calm myself. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw that Polaroid. The woman's amber eyes, my amber eyes, staring back at me with an unspoken question. Why don't you know me? Every creak of the house made me twitch. Normally, the sounds were comforting, pipes settling, the refrigerator humming, the occasional groan of old wood. But now, they felt conspiratorial. Like the house itself was guarding secrets, whispering to keep me asleep. To keep me ignorant, I wanted to storm into my parents' bedroom, flick on the light, and demand answers. Who is she? Why did you lie to me? What is my real name? But instead, I just lay there, my fists clenched under the blanket, afraid of what those answers would do to me. Because the truth doesn't just set you free. It destroys the version of you that existed before you knew it around 2 a.m. I couldn't take it anymore. I slipped out of bed, padded barefoot down the hall, and into the laundry room. I opened the closet slowly, quietly. The box was still there, exactly where I'd left it. My fingers hovered over it like it might burn me. And maybe it already had. I carried it back to my room this time, locking the door behind me. I needed to know more. The twine came undone quicker now, my hands less hesitant. I pulled out another letter, one dated a year after the first. I think about her every day. I hope you sing to her at night. She always loved music when she was inside me. Kicked the most when I played the old records. Does she smile yet? Does she call you mama? Please tell her one day that I never stopped loving her. The words hit harder than the first letter. Because it wasn't just paperwork anymore. It was a voice. A real, desperate voice, echoing across years, reaching for me through ink and paper. Hook 1. If this woman loved me so much, why wasn't she here? Who decided I wasn't hers to raise? I checked the envelope. No return address, just a smudged postmark from a town 3 hours away. My chest tightened. She wasn't some ghost across the world. She was close. She could be sitting in a diner right now, sipping coffee, not knowing her daughter was reading the words she wrote decades ago. That I kept digging. At the very bottom of the stack, folded smaller than the rest, was a photo strip from one of those mall photo booths. Two teenagers, grinning into the camera, cheek to cheek. The girl was the same woman from the Polaroid, no doubt. And the boy? He looked like my father. My father. His jawline, his lopsided smile. Younger, yes, but undeniably him. My stomach flipped. So this wasn't just some random woman. She was someone he knew, someone he loved, someone he laughed with in a sticky photo booth on a Saturday afternoon long before I was born. Hook 2. What if the man I called Dad wasn't just complicit, but the reason this woman wasn't in my life? I traced the photo with my fingertip, my skin buzzing. The casual, everyday joy in their faces made me feel sick. Like I was intruding on a moment too pure, too intimate, to be hidden in a box of lies. My eyes darted to the door, half expecting it to swing open, my parents catching me red-handed. My pulse throbbed in my ears. The box felt heavier now, filled not with paper but with betrayal. I stuffed everything back in, tied the twine again, and slid it under my bed. Not in the laundry room this time. No, it was mine now. My secret, but secrets don't stay buried forever. They grow, press against your ribs, demand oxygen. And as I finally drifted into a restless sleep, one thought circled endlessly in my mind. If they've lied to me about this for 18 years, what else have they lied about? The next morning, I acted like nothing had changed. I dragged myself out of bed, brushed my teeth, and went downstairs, but every step felt like I was walking through a dream. Or maybe a nightmare. My parents were sitting at the kitchen table drinking coffee, flipping through the Sunday paper like it was just another day. But it wasn't just another day. Not for me. I watched them closely, searching for cracks in their faces. Were they nervous? Guilty? Did they know I had found the box? My dad looked up and smiled at me the same way he always did, like nothing in the world was wrong. My mom asked if I wanted pancakes. Their voices were steady, ordinary, too ordinary. And that made me angrier, because how could they look so calm when the ground beneath me was splitting apart? I sat down, pretending to scroll on my phone while my mind screamed. Every clink of a spoon against a mug sounded like mockery. I wanted to slam the photo strip down on the table and shout, "Who is she? Why have you lied to me for 18 years?" But the words stuck in my throat. My chest felt like it was caving in. Instead, I decided to test them. So, I said casually, stabbing at my eggs, "Did you guys ever keep stuff from me when I was little? Like anything important?" My mom froze for a second, just barely, before forcing a laugh. "What do you mean, honey?" "Like what?" I shrugged, trying to sound bored. "I don't know. Just secrets. Old things. Family stuff." My dad folded his newspaper. His eyes met mine, and for a second, I thought I saw something flicker there. Panic? Guilt? Before he smiled. "Families always have stories. But nothing you need to worry about. Nothing I need to worry about." The words tasted like poison. Because if it was nothing, why did they hide it in a box wrapped in twine? Why did letters exist from a woman begging to be remembered? I wanted to scream, but I bit my tongue until I tasted blood. The rest of the day blurred. I went through the motions, cleaned my room, did some homework, scrolled social media, but my mind kept circling back to that Polaroid, that photo strip, those letters. The woman with my eyes. The younger version of my dad smiling beside her. Hook 1. Had they built my entire life on a lie, brick by brick, hoping I would never look too closely? That evening, when my parents went to watch TV in the living room, I went upstairs and pulled the box out again. I sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by the evidence of a life I was never supposed to know about. And I realized something chilling. The woman from the letters wasn't just someone. She knew things about me. About baby me. She wrote about how I kicked when she played music. She wrote about my smile, about my first words. Hook 2. How could she know all that unless she had been there when I was born? Unless she was my mother? The thought struck me like lightning. My mom, the woman downstairs, humming along to the TV commercials, might not actually be my mom. Or at least, not the one who gave birth to me. I pressed my palms to my eyes, trying to stop the tears, but they came anyway, hot and relentless. The room spun. All those birthday parties, bedtime stories, scraped knees she kissed better. Were they hers, or were they stolen from someone else? And then another thought hit me even harder. If she isn't my real mother, then what else are they hiding? Was I stolen? Given away? Sold? I had gone from being a normal kid with a normal life to a stranger in my own family in less than 24 hours. And deep down, I knew the only way to get answers was to confront them. That night, I couldn't take it anymore. My hands were shaking as I carried the photo strip downstairs, the one with my dad and the mysterious woman. My parents were curled up on the couch watching some sitcom rerun, laughing at the canned jokes. The sound made my skin crawl. I stood there in the doorway, clutching the photo so tightly it bent. Who is she? My voice cracked, but it sliced through the room like glass. Damn, why parents turned. My mom blinked, confused. My dad's face drained of color the second he saw the picture in my hand. Where did you get that? He asked, his voice too sharp, too fast. I found it. Upstairs. In a box. With letters. My chest heaved as anger and panic warred inside me. She wrote about me, about when I was a baby. So tell me the truth. Who is she? Because she looks like me. Exactly like me. My mom sat frozen, her lips parting as if she wanted to speak, but no sound came out. My dad rubbed his forehead, muttering something under his breath. Answer me. My voice rose louder than I'd ever heard it. Am I adopted? Did you lie to me my whole life? Who is she? The silence that followed was unbearable. Only the faint chatter of the TV filled the room until my dad grabbed the remote and shut it off. The click was deafening. Finally, my mom whispered, "It's complicated." Complicated. I laughed bitterly. No, it's not. Either she's my mother or she's not. Which one is it? Her hands trembled in her lap. My dad looked at her, his jaw tight, his eyes hard, as if daring her to say something. Hook 1. That look between them told me more than their words ever could. They were hiding something massive, and they both knew it. I think I deserve the truth, I said, my voice breaking. I've lived in this house for 18 years, thinking I knew who I was. But now I don't even know if the name on my birth certificate is real. I don't know if you are real. My mom burst into tears, covering her face with her hands. My dad reached for me, but I jerked back, clutching the photo like a shield. Don't, I snapped. Don't you dare act like this is nothing. Tell me who she is. Tell me if she's my mother. My dad exhaled, slow and heavy, the kind of sound that meant the walls were about to come down. He looked at me, his eyes raw with something I couldn't read. Shame, regret, fear. Finally, he said it. She's your biological mother. Hook 2. The world tilted. My knees buckled. And in that single sentence, my entire life shattered into a before and an after. The words hung in the air like smoke, suffocating me. She's your biological mother. My dad's voice was low, almost broken, but that didn't make it easier to hear. For a moment, I thought maybe I'd misheard him, that my brain had twisted his words into the thing I feared most. But the look on his face told me otherwise. My legs went weak, and I stumbled back until I hit the wall. The photo strip slipped from my hand and fluttered to the carpet. My mom was sobbing quietly, rocking back and forth, but I couldn't even look at her. My eyes locked on my dad, the man I thought I knew, the man who had tucked me in at night, taught me to ride a bike, and cheered for me at every school play. And now he was telling me he wasn't who I thought he was. What do you mean? My voice cracked. How is she my biological mother? You told me mom had me in the hospital. I've seen baby pictures. I've heard the stories about the day I was born. Were those all lies? My mom finally lifted her face from her hands, her cheeks streaked with tears. Sweetheart, we never meant to hurt you. Never meant to hurt me? I snapped, my throat tight and raw. You lied to me every single day of my life. Do you know what that feels like? To wake up one morning and realize your entire identity is built on secrets. My dad tried to step closer, his hand half raised like he wanted to comfort me, but I flinched. He stopped, his shoulders sagging. It's not as simple as you think, he said. We didn't just lie. We protected you. Protected me from what? My chest was burning, my head pounding. Protected me from knowing the truth about my own life? How is that protection? That's control. That's manipulation. There was another silence, heavy and suffocating, before my mom finally whispered, "She couldn't take care of you." Her words hit me like a hammer. She? I repeated. My voice trembled. Say her name. Who is she? Neither of them spoke. My dad looked at the floor, jaw clenched so tight I thought his teeth might break. My mom's eyes darted to him, pleading, but he shook his head ever so slightly. And that told me everything. They were still hiding pieces. They had given me one horrible truth, but it wasn't the whole story. Hook one. It was like standing on the edge of a cliff. Realizing the ground beneath me had already crumbled and I was seconds away from freefall. Tears blurred my vision. I bent down, snatched the photo from the carpet, and held it up again. If she couldn't take care of me, then why keep her pictures? Why keep her letters? Why hide them in the attic if she was just someone who gave me away? That doesn't make sense. You're still lying. My dad rubbed his face with both hands, groaning softly. It's not what you think. Then make me understand. I shouted, my voice echoing through the house. Hook 2. The truth was finally seeping out. But every answer only raised more questions, and I wasn't sure my heart could survive what came next. My dad finally sank into the armchair across from me. Like the weight of his own secret had crushed his spine. He pressed his palms together, staring at the floor. My mom stayed beside him, her hand trembling on his knee, but he didn't look at her. His eyes were distant, like he was staring decades into the past. You want to know who she was? He said finally, his voice hoarse. Fine, I'll tell you. I braced myself, clutching the photograph so tightly it bent between my fingers. Her name was Rachel. He swallowed hard, like even saying her name hurt. She was someone I knew before your mom. A girl I loved once, in a way I thought would last forever. But Rachel, she wasn't stable. She had dreams bigger than the world could hold, but no foundation. She was reckless, and she wasn't ready to be a mother. The words twisted in my stomach. So you're saying she's my biological mother? He nodded slowly, his eyes finally meeting mine. Yes, Rachel gave birth to you. The room seemed to spin. I felt like the walls were caving in, like the air itself had turned thick. My mother sniffled loudly, tears running down her cheeks, but I couldn't focus on her. Then what about you? I demanded, my throat raw. Are you my biological father? For a split second, something flickered in his expression. Pain, maybe, or guilt. Then he shook his head. No. That single word split me open like glass shattering. Hook 1. The man who raised me, the man I thought was my father, wasn't even my blood. And the woman I called mom wasn't the one who gave me life. My whole family was a patchwork of secrets that I couldn't breathe. I staggered backward again, pressing a hand to my chest like that could hold me together. So what am I? Some charity case? A project? Did you two just pick me up like a lost puppy? No, my mom cried, finally finding her voice. She stood, rushing toward me, but I raised my hand to stop her. She froze mid-step, her face crumpling. You weren't a project, she said through her tears. You were a miracle. Rachel, she wanted to give you away. She couldn't handle it. She begged us to take you, to give you the life she knew she never could. And we, her voice broke. We wanted you more than anything. Her words hit me like a storm. Love tangled with betrayal, devotion intertwined with lies. So you adopted me. I whispered, my voice hollowed at him. Why Dad nodded again, slowly. Yes, but we promised Rachel we'd keep her out of it, that you'd never have to know her chaos. She disappeared after that. The only thing she left behind were the photos and those letters. Hook 2. The truth was finally unraveling, but with every word. The story of my life became more like a stranger's, and I couldn't decide if I wanted to hear the rest. Silence stretched through the room, heavier than any argument we had ever had. The word adopted echoed in my mind like a broken record, shattering everything I thought I knew about myself. Adopted that I replayed every childhood memory. Birthdays, holidays, scraped knees, whispered bedtime stories, and suddenly, they all felt borrowed. Like someone else's life I had stumbled into by mistake. My chest ached as I clutched the photograph, tracing the faint outline of the young woman's smile with my trembling thumb. Rachel. The name itself felt foreign and intimate at the same time. Why didn't you tell me? My voice cracked. You let me live my whole life believing I was yours. Believing that this, I gestured around the room, at the house I'd grown up in, was real. And now you're telling me it was all a lie? My mother sobbed openly now, wringing her hands. It wasn't a lie, sweetheart. We loved you. We still love you. Every day? That has never changed. But her words bounced off me like they were wrapped in glass. My father leaned forward, his elbows on his knees, his hands clasped so tight his knuckles went white. We thought we were protecting you, he whispered. Rachel was unpredictable. She came in and out of people's lives like a storm, and we didn't want that for you. We wanted stability. We wanted to give you a family. By lying to me, I shot back, my anger finally spilling over. You built this entire family on lies. Neither of them spoke. My mother covered her face with her hands, her shoulders shaking. My dad just stared at the floor like it might swallow him whole. Hook 1. The love I had trusted all my life now felt like betrayal. And I couldn't decide which hurt worse, the truth itself, or the years they'd spent hiding it that I turned away. Pacing across the room as my thoughts spiraled. Is she still alive? I asked suddenly. Whipping around to face them, they exchanged a look. That look, silent, hesitant, guilty, told me more than words ever could. She might be, my father admitted quietly. We don't know for sure. After we took you in, she disappeared. No calls, no letters, just gone. But my heart skipped. You think she could be out there? Somewhere. Neither of them said yes. Neither of them said no. Hook 2. For the first time in my life, I realized there was a stranger out there who held the answers to who I truly was. And if she was still alive, I needed to find her. The room felt too small, like the walls themselves were closing in, pressing against my chest until it was hard to breathe. My parents sat there, silent, broken, but I couldn't stop the storm inside me. All my life, I thought I knew who I was. I thought my story was ordinary, safe. But now, every memory came back to me with jagged edges. My mother brushing my hair before school. My father teaching me how to ride a bike. The lullabies, the family dinners, the holidays. Were they really acts of love? Or were they desperate attempts to cover up the truth? I don't even know who I am anymore. I whispered, my throat rawed. My mother's face crumpled. You're ours. That hasn't changed. It will never change. But I shook my head. No, you've hidden things from me for years. How can I believe there isn't more? How can I trust anything you've ever told me? The silence that followed was deafening. My father finally spoke, his voice low and heavy. There are things we haven't told you. Details we weren't sure you were ready for. My blood ran cold. What details? He rubbed his face, looking older than I had ever seen him. Rachel, your biological mother. She wasn't just irresponsible. She was troubled. She struggled with addiction, with relationships, with money. And the people she surrounded herself with. They weren't safe. We didn't want you near that world. My stomach turned. I wanted to scream, to tell him that I deserved to know, that I wasn't a child anymore. But at the same time, a part of me felt paralyzed. Because if there was more, if they had been keeping things from me all this time, what if my entire life was built on secrets? Hook 1. The question hit me like a punch. What else were they hiding? And if Rachel was so dangerous, then why did they keep that photo tucked away like a forbidden memory? I looked at them both, my voice shaking. Do you have any idea what this does to me? To know that she's out there, or was out there, and that I've been living a life that isn't even mine. My mother tried to reach for my hand, but I pulled away. Her touch, once comforting, now burned. Hook 2. For the first time in my life, I felt like a stranger in my own home, like I didn't belong to the people I had called mom and dad all these years, that I couldn't stay in that room any longer. Every second felt like I was suffocating. So, I stood up, ignoring my mother's trembling voice calling my name, and walked out the front door into the cool night air. The street was quiet, but inside my head everything was loud. Memories, questions, doubts. The photo of Rachel burned in my pocket like it was made of fire. Her smile haunted me. Who was she, really? A dangerous stranger? Or the missing piece of myself I never knew I needed? Hook 1. If she was alive somewhere, did she ever think of me? Did she regret giving me away? Or did she not care at all? The thought tore me apart that I walked aimlessly under the dim streetlights, replaying every conversation with my parents in a new light. Every time they avoided a question, every moment that felt off. It all made sense now. They weren't just being strict or overprotective. They were hiding the truth. But here was the hardest part. Despite the lies, despite the betrayal, I still loved them. They raised me. They gave me a home when Rachel couldn't. And yet, love didn't erase the cracks in my trust. Hook 2. Could I ever forgive them for deciding my story wasn't mine to know? Or was this the beginning of the end of everything I thought I had? When I finally came back inside hours later, the house was silent. My parents were in the kitchen, waiting. Their eyes were swollen from crying. My mother whispered, "Please, don't shut us out." I sat down, exhausted, and told them the only truth I had left in me. I don't know if I can ever look at you the same way again, but I also don't know if I can live without answers. If you want me to stay, you have to tell me everything. No more secrets. No more half-truths. I need the whole story. And that's where I left it. Hook 3, because sometimes the most painful betrayal isn't losing someone. It's realizing the people you trusted most were never as honest as you believed. Thank you for watching this story on True Tales Hub. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss our next story that we post new tales twice a day, and each one comes with unexpected twists you won't see coming.